Hello everyone and welcome to our online webinar for Context Broker and Big Data Test Infrastructure, where today we will be showcasing the synergies and success stories revolving around the building blocks. The participant list is still filling up, but I will just try to cover some of the ground rules for the webinar today. If you have any questions, I encourage you to use the chat function of WebEx, where my colleagues will be monitoring the different questions that are asked, and we will address them at the very end of the webinar during the Q&A session. Normally, it is everybody is set to mute on entry, but please do refrain to use the audio while the other speakers are presenting the different subjects. And I would like to also remind our audience that this webinar is recorded and the content along with the slides will be shared during right after the webinar on the event page. This is our proposed agenda for today. My name is Erbil, by the way. I work for the CEF as the onboarding manager for both Context Broker and BDTI, and I will be giving you a quick brief on the activities that we do in CEF SMO, which will be followed by the BDTI section of the webinar, where the project manager responsible for BDTI, Blanca Martinez de Aragon, will speak quickly about the BDTI, which will be followed by our pilot request manager, Francesca Vella, who will be speaking about the highlights of the latest release on the platform. And today we have the pleasure of inviting two of the the pilots that are currently ongoing. One from the City of Florence, represented today by Gianluca Vannuccini. And for the Valencia pilot, we have the pleasure of having Laia Pastor with us today. Following the BDTI section, the context broker will be quickly presented by Corneau, the project officer responsible for the building block. The standardization and the roadmap of updates to come will be presented by Ken Zangelin from the FIWARE Foundation. And we have the pleasure of having Benedetta Carlotti from Phoops SRL to speak about their different activities revolving around the context broker. Before we move along into deeper into our content, I would like to invite everybody here to either go to menti.com using the code or scanning the QR code with your mobile devices. Since there will be a Q&A section as stated previously, we are going to use the Mentimeter tool to collect all the information which will be shared anonymously. And if we can do this right away, this way, when the time comes, we will remind you of this connection methods. But if you can already go and log in with given credentials. And before starting, we also have a very quick question to ask you. If my esteemed colleague Martino can share his screen and we can try and collect this information before we start.
Yes, absolutely. I'm sharing the screen.
Thank you, Martino. So, very simple question. How are we feeling today? I see that we have already a couple of answers that were given. It is important in these trying and difficult times. We really appreciate your presence, and we are more than happy to have you here along with our external stakeholders, which is quite a good highlight for us today. And if you can, please reply to this simple question. We'll be very happy to have it. And also wishing that everybody, I see that I like the fact that everybody is excited about the great content that we reserved for you. I will wait just one extra minute, gather more information. Thank you already for all those who replied. And I'm very hopeful that after the 2-hour program, you won't be tired, but very much optimistic and excited about the future that beholds using the building blocks. Very good. We have already 18 answers with less than half. Wonderful. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much for your input. We are once again very happy to have you and happy to see that everybody is optimistic, more or less optimistic and curious about the things to come. So now to the main business and the reason why we're here today. I will be giving you a quick introduction on the different CEF activities and the building blocks in general, but I promise you I won't be taking too much of your time. So, as you well know, our mission is to increase the interconnection between trans-European networks, and we do this by providing technical support to public administration, but also businesses. And in order to do that, we are using mainly our main tool, which are the building blocks, helping them to develop secure and interoperable digital services along the way, and also various funding opportunities that can also be used. These are our 10 building blocks. Today, we are going to focus mainly on the BDTI, Big Data Test Infrastructure, and the Context Broker. The two constitute the two out of three of the data building blocks, the third one being the e-archiving. But as you can see, we have a total of 10 building blocks and all to your service to make sure that your digital transformation can be done in a harmonized way. They are all interoperable and based on European standards. On the fact of the support that we do provide, regardless of the way that you will decide to go along with, whether it's to buy a compliant interoperable solution from the market, to build your own solution, or use one of the available sample software, we will be more than happy to help you and support you along the way to implement the building blocks into your project. And one of the many benefits is that that will allow you a future-proof and fast-to-implement solution, which in the end will be safer for you to use. And last but not least, different funding opportunities also do present themselves, and we're trying to highlight these in the upcoming months into our webinar schedule to try and speak more about those. So, as promised, I will be leaving the floor to you for the Big Data Test Infrastructure section of this webinar. These are our speakers that we're very happy to have today. And without further ado, I will leave the floor to Blanca Martinez de Aragon, who's the project officer in charge of BDTI. Blanca, the floor is yours.
Okay, hello everyone. Can you confirm, Erbil, that you can hear me?
Loud and clear.
Perfect. So, hello everyone, and thank you for being here. I'm Blanca Martinez, and I work in Digit in the data services sector, and in particular in the Big Data Test Infrastructure building block. I will present what is the Big Data Test Infrastructure and what are the reasons behind its development. Feel free to ask any question, and I will be brief because today we have two BDTI users from the cities of Valencia and Florence, and I believe that this is the best way to learn about this building block, to hear their stories and their experience. So next slide. So what is BDTI, or Big Data Test Infrastructure? So it is a cloud-based platform which was created under the Connecting Europe Facility program, as Erbil just introduced. And the goal of this building block is to promote and help public administrations to experiment with their data and move towards data-driven decision-making. This means that the building block provides a ready-to-use environment with all the configuration and tools needed so that the public administrations can create the pilot project. It has multiple technologies available, and these are selected depending on the use case. We also help with this, assessing which are the tools that work best for your needs. And well, all of them are open source. We also help during the pilot and provide suggestions, and we really want to help the administrations to gain insights from the data and see the potential that data technologies can have. So next slide. So why was it created? Why was it created? So the reasons why BDTI was developed is because the European Commission identified a set of common problems among the public administrations in Europe. First of all, public administrations tend to find it hard to start a new project. They do not have the resources, the technologies, the infrastructure, or it might take long. They might lack the skills. So one of the goals of BDTI is to facilitate this starting process, as we already provide the environment and the infrastructure. Another problem is that they are not so used to open source, or they don't know where to find it. This is not the case in the two examples that we will see today, but in BDTI, we also promote the use of open data, and you can use either your own data, but also with support, and we explain where to find the open data sources so that they can be included in the pilot. Because the European Commission wants to promote this sharing as well of their own data, but also making more available the data sources and encouraging the sharing of data. So related to this, we also want to promote the reuse of components, so also from one pilot to the other, but in general to share good practices. And this is something that we highlight to the pilot requesters because it is key to share knowledge with each other, and it is common that different member states and cities, they are facing the same problem, or they have the same needs. So by looking at what others have done, it can inspire them, and it can be easier to replicate and have the same use case. So that's why we also invited Laia and Gianluca to present their use cases. So the next slide. So if you're questioning, is BDTI for me? It is if you are a public administration and you want to experiment with data in a ready and safe environment. So as I said, you don't need to maintain a complex environment because it's already provided. It is also configured based on your needs, and after a talk with the technical team, it is easily adapted to the requirements. And even if you it's during 6 months, so even if at the beginning you're not sure, during the pilot you can also add extra tools and extra resources. We can actually also send the link, I'll send it later, to the technologies that are available in BDTI. And the process is quite fast. So once you receive the approval, you can start validating the idea and start experimenting with the data. For the next slide. So here it's about the different use cases that you can do with BDTI. There's a lot of different use cases. These are not only the ones, but this is just to give you some examples. The most typically is to have descriptive analytics, so make some statistics, visualizations on your data. But there's many others like text analytics, also having predictions, analyzing information from Internet of Things, social media. I will not go in detail because we are lucky today as we will have 2 real use cases. So I think that this will give you a better idea on what type of use cases you can do in BDTI. But it is very broad. If you go to the next slide, and last one for me. So what are the benefits from using BDTI? As mentioned, you have a ready environment where you don't need to wait for all the implementations, configurations. You don't need to maintain it. Also, you don't need to pay for it because it's provided for 6 months. And later on, you also have guidance on what to do once it is finished, the pilot phase, and how to migrate it. And you receive some support and guidance on the technologies that best fit your needs. It is also possible to share and reuse data, and also the knowledge with all the other pilot requesters from all around Europe, and access to these insights and the best practices. There is also a community portal that is being built, so this is also one of the big benefits. And more about this will be presented by Francesca, that will explain the latest services in BDTI and how to start the request for this service. So I leave the floor to her, and thank you so much. If you have any question, I will check the chat and answer it.
Thank you, Blanca. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for participating in this webinar. I am Francesca Vella, the BDTI Pilot Request Manager, and I'm going to present you the different services that are part of the BDTI service offering and the process you need to follow in order to get started and request a pilot. So in the next slide, you can see the full set of services included in the BDTI service offering. They are split between 3 different phases. So at the beginning, we have a request phase during which we collect tickets using a service desk. The service desk is our single point of contact, and through it, users can open a ticket to ask questions and clarifications in order to better understand what is BDTI or directly submit a request to run a pilot project. Together with the service desk, at the beginning of the process, we activate the onboarding and stakeholder follow-up service. This is a service through which a dedicated team supports the requesters since the beginning through all the duration of the pilot until the end of the project. In particular, what we do initially is to help the users to understand better what BDTI can do and which kind of analysis they can perform with it. During this time, we also collect all the requirements and we understand together with the user what is the specific direction that the project can take and what is the specific configuration that the platform needs to have. Thanks to these requirements, we can configure, the technical team configures the platform, providing our core service, the test infrastructure, so the platform itself. This platform is a sandbox environment where users can, during a period of 6 months, experiment with their big data and analyze them using the tools that the technical team suggested to install. Of course, during the duration of the pilot, the platform can be readapted for any need. For example, if you have a request of an additional data source or an additional tool. At the end of the pilot, we collect inputs from users because this really helps us to improve the platform itself and also all the other additional services. And we have these additional services, for instance, the BDTI catalogs, which are examples of services which we constantly improve thanks to the users' inputs and feedback. And in particular, the first one, the data source catalog, is a centralized repository of reliable open data sources that users can access in order to find data that can be reused for the execution of their pilots. Indeed, this open data can be combined with the data that the public organization has collected itself in order to expand its analysis. Then we have the other catalog, the Big Data and Analytics Software Catalog. This one allows users to search and download analytics softwares that can be used to implement the use cases, for example, for data visualization, data analytics, and so on. Then we have other additional services, for example, the data scientist assistance that can be activated on demand. So only in case the public administration requires for it. So if, for example, internally there are not enough resources to work on the pilot project, the European Commission provides this dedicated data scientist to support the public administration before and during all the implementation of the pilot. Another additional service, the BDTI community portal, is a space where members can develop and share big data knowledge and artifacts. For instance, through this community, members will be able to access to news and events related to BDTI, information on the pilots, and the catalogs I mentioned you before. In addition, the community portal provides a forum session where members can discuss different topics related to pilots or technologies, and where they can contribute with their own ideas and create synergies with other public administrations, so enlarging their own network and collaboration opportunities. And last but not least, we are preparing a new service, the advisory service for the in-house implementation of BDTI. Indeed, the final aim of the European Commission is to help public administrations to become more mature and being able, after the end of the pilot project, to continue it in-house. With this regard, this service provides public administrations with an estimation of costs, resources, and time needed for the in-house implementation of the test infrastructure and related guidelines or recommendations. So now we can pass to the next slide. Okay, now we can see which is the process that the public administration needs to follow to get started with BDTI. Essentially, when you have understood what can be done on BDTI and that you have a need that can be satisfied through this infrastructure, you can reach out to us through the service desk or our functional mailbox, and you can submit a request in order to run a pilot project. Of course, we will support you during the initial stage, understanding with you how to shape the platform accordingly to your needs. And then once collect all this information, the technical team prepares an estimation of the costs of the pilot, and we submit to the BDTI board your pilot request for approval. Once received the approval, the test environment is set up. So the specific tools are installed and the public administration receives the access in order to start with the analysis on their big data inside the sandbox. In the next slide, we can see the acceptance criteria for the pilot to be approved. First of all, there are some business criteria. The requester has to be a public entity. This can be at national, regional, or local level, but it is fundamental that there is a real engagement of a public administration, which can also cooperate with other entities, but it needs to be involved as primary stakeholder. Then a clear view of what the added value will be has to be clear already at the beginning of the project. And we need to have a clear contact point for the project for the entire duration of the pilot. Then we have some functional criteria. For example, a pilot project on BDTI can last up to 6 months. The type of analysis has to be in scope with ones of the scope of the type of analysis that Blanca explained before. Then BDTI is a platform that is completely for free for the public administration. So there is no need to anticipate money or to pay anything, but the pilot cost needs to fall within the budget provided by the CEF. Then it is important that public administrations has internally adequate skilled resources, so people can that can effectively work on the project with an adequate maturity on the topics related to big data. And finally, we try to ensure as much as possible a geographical distribution of different pilots. So we try to provide to all administration of Europe the same opportunity. Then in the last slide, yes, in the last slide, we have an overview of some examples of BDTI, of the BDTI current ongoing pilots, with a focus on how BDTI is helping in these projects. But since during this webinar, we have the pleasure of having two representatives of this pilot from Florence and Valencia, who will share with us their experience with BDTI. I won't take up any more of your time, and I leave the floor to Gianluca Vannuccini, the pilot owner of the City of Florence pilot. So thank you. I leave the floor to you, Gianluca.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Many thanks for having invited us, and also many thanks for having involved us in this project. I'm Gianluca from City of Florence. I'm an IT manager of the municipality of Florence. Well, just to let you know, the municipality has 4,000 employees, and in our department we are managing all public services for citizens. And in particular, in my office, we are working also a lot on big data and analytics and business intelligence. Okay, please, next slide. Okay, I would like to share with you these four topics. First, an overview of what is the data governance in our city. Then how we are working on the big data world with approach. Then some words about smart tourism and smart services during COVID-19. And finally, how we get involved in and how we are exploiting the opportunity to be into the BDTI project in Florence. Okay, please. Next slide. Okay. Okay, a brief overview of our roadmap regarding data, and we started in Smart City, let's say. We started in Florence in 2013 by analyzing and exploiting an assessment that was done at that time on all the smart city initiatives done by all the public utilities in Florence. We have something like 13 public utilities in the city, so many of them which manage the different public services in the city. And we started this assessment, which highlighted a lot of interesting smart city initiatives, mostly based on data. So we started with this work with a nearly updated action plan called Firenze Digitale, in which every year we work with all the public utilities, with the Chamber of Commerce and Tuscany region to improve data sharing processes into the city, in order to improve the open data platforms in the city of the different stakeholders, in order to improve the quality of public services. Our roadmap has an important milestone next year with the start of the Smart City Control Room. Okay, next slide. Everything regarding big data started with the Replicate project, and actually with the Smart City plan done by the City of Florence during FP7 STEEP project. Then during Resolute project Horizon 2020 on resilience, we started working with the University of Florence on big data, and with the Replicate project, the SEC1 Lighthouse project, together with Bristol and San Sebastian, we worked on the big data platform for the City of Florence, which was the ground for different smart city services, so e-mobility, charging stations, irrigation into gardens, smart waste systems, smart lighting, and of course the Smart City Control Room project. All was grounded having as a context two important infrastructures in the city, that are the Firenze Wi-Fi network, which is a network of more than 2,000 hotspots all over the city, so in many campuses, in the hospital campuses, in indoor, and also many hotspots outdoor in public squares. All of these have a unique user interface and a unique user experience. And also the open data, which was an important asset for the city, which has been launched in 2011, so many years ago, and every year has been improved with further data, and also with further interoperability features with Inspire or other standard metadata vocabularies. Okay, next slide. Okay, the Smart City Control Room is a place where we are willing to manage all the public services in the city by putting together all the public utilities that manage the different public services. So everything is based on big data, on the big data platform that collects data from different subsystems, but also every operator of the control room has the possibility to enter into its own vertical subsystems, so its vertical platforms. The Smart City Control Room is something that we are building right now, in a place near an important station in Florence. And we are now working by changing all the contracts with the public utilities in order to organize their participation into the control room, and also organize shifts and the governance of the whole control room. Okay? Next slide. So the big data platform, next slide. The big data platform was is composed of different data sources, mainly coming from real-time systems, and also systems that are updated on a regular basis. During these years, it was launched in 2018, and during these years we updated this control room, this big data platform, with different new data sets. The users of the control room data are of this dashboard, let's say, are the mayor himself, the general manager, the mobility director, and also will be the operators of the smart city control room. Even now, during COVID-19, we are adding new data sources to this dashboard in order to provide to the city decision makers the data, real-time data on the COVID infection into the city and to the county. Okay. So this dashboard was launched during the Smart City Expo in Barcelona last 2018 by our mayor himself. Okay. And now we are scaling up this big data platform together with the Tuscany region and Almaviva as provider by putting this platform into the Tuscany region community cloud. So the idea is to scale up the experience done by Florence into the Replicate project by putting all the experience and expertise together with the colleagues of Tuscany region into one platform based on the government cloud in Tuscany that can be offered as a service and as a platform to other cities in Tuscany. So all the different algorithms are performed, operated on top of this big data platform on the cloud in Tuscany, the government cloud. Okay. So, what are the main areas that are being analyzed on this big data platform? First, smart mobility. So, IF is the Florence Infomobility app and platform that is using and leveraging big data on mobility, on traffic from different subsystems. And the app and the platform has been developed by Phoops, who will be presenting this in the next session. Then we have the smart tourism area, so analyzing data regarding to tourism presences, city service monitoring with the dashboard that I showed a minute before, and the city policy making, so using this data to support decisions of policymakers. Okay, next slide. Okay, during regarding smart tourism, next slide. We started in 2016 the analysis of big data on tourism by analyzing mobile data operators. Mobile analytics, let's say. So the data from Telecom Italia, Vodafone, and other mobile operators that provided us their data, and on the presences in Florence. These data were very impressive at the moment, more impressive now if we, during this period of COVID, if we see how empty are our squares. And we developed a lot of new insights on the presences of tourists in Florence from many different nationalities. Okay. These data were mainly not real time, and we started by this. On top of this data, we started the work on smart tourism area by developing a unique platform, mobile and web, for smart tourism. So the idea is to collect all the big data from the different subsystems regarding, for example, presences in the city or events and so on, and to promote this path, these experiences to the tourists or to the city user, the residents, through mobile, web, and app, and also by orienting, let's say, promoting new paths for residents and city users that are, let's say, before COVID, that are out of overcrowded places, which was a problem actually in Florence before COVID. After COVID, we can promote places that are distance-free, let's say. So the idea is to use this platform in order to promote experiences in this moment in places where there are not so many crowds of people. Okay, next slide. So the platform is called City of Florence. It's a mobile app and also it is the official web page of the tourism in all the Tuscany area. In all the Florence County area. Okay. And the system is exploiting big data coming from mostly Wi-Fi, public Wi-Fi network. And the idea is to improve the predictive analytics and also the possibilities to orient traffic flow, people flow, so tourists, residents flows and experiences into the city to discover new spots, original events, and also regional experiences that may interest the different types of city users. Okay? Next slide. So we are collecting data from the different spots, tourist spots, or let's say citizen spots in the city, and applying a crowding level, low, average, or high, in order to cluster, let's say, the different areas of the city according to the level of density of presences in that place. I again repeat that before COVID, Florence was very, very looking for overcrowding management algorithms, because we had really overcrowded squares and tourist spots. Okay, again, next slide. So an example of this usage of mobile operators during COVID lockdown was useful also to analyze movements of people around the city. These data were mainly from mobile operators. Okay, again, next slide. Okay, and the use of public Wi-Fi network, as I said before, is very, very useful now for decision support during this period of lockdown or COVID restrictions. Okay, next slide. And that's why the BTI project was very, very useful for us exactly in this context, in this period. Next slide. What was for us the participation to the BDTI project? First, a unique opportunity to get in contact with experts at EU level for improving our skills, mainly on data analytics methodologies, for example, on the use of tools such as Jupyter or tools for data processing, and also a powerful platform to use as a service to process specific analytics. Our skills were mostly, as you have seen before, on on-premises tools, and so the skills that were provided within the BTI project for us were very useful also to learn new approaches, also architectural approaches to data processing. Okay, and so the goal was to use the Firenze Wi-Fi infrastructure to estimate presences in the Florence city center by analyzing the data from the Wi-Fi network and by applying in perspective also predictive analytics. I must say two things. First is that other than the Wi-Fi network, we are also analyzing the possibility to use the video surveillance network in order to collect anonymous people presence numbers in conjunction with the Wi-Fi presence. And secondly, I have to say that the predictive analytics was based on the assumption that we could collect even more presences in the city, but during this period of COVID-19, of course, we had, as we will see, very fall down of presences in the city, so this was harder than predicted. Okay, next slide. So we consider 3 time periods. Unfortunately, now we have the 4th one, which is the second wave of COVID, but the pre-lockdown, during lockdown, and post-lockdown. Okay? And this is just the difference of presences of people in 2019 and 2020 in Florence. All these data were processed into BDTI. So the main usage that we are doing of BDTI is for data processing and partly also for data visualization, but mostly data processing and crossing. Okay. Next slide. So this is another example of the usage of parks or squares pre, during, and post the lockdown in order to analyze, for example, the fact that people in parks were improving their presence after the lockdown. So people after the lockdown were tending to go out in the parks and squares. Of course, it was spring, summer, so weather conditions, of course, helped this behavior. Next slide. And this was very interesting because it told us which, in comparing squares, parks, markets, and other spots of the city, in order to analyze which were the top best performers or worst performers, in order to analyze where people was going, during this weird period for the city. Next slide. This added the possibility, thanks to the processing capabilities of the BDTI, to analyze data on an hours based, so on an hourly basis. So this helped us to analyze the behavior and the trends of presences on an hourly basis. Okay, next slide. Also, we added other data sources, such as the city tax, for the city tourism tax. And of course, you can see a very, very important, let's say, dramatic reduction of the city tax and the trend, of course, during the lockdown period. Other data sources can be added, such as, for example, the georeferenced events in the city, in order to improve the predictive capability of our approach. And we are also in the way of correlating this data with the mobility and traffic data together with Phoops and within the InfoMobility platform. So the two areas, presences in the city for tourism, let's say, or economic analysis, and also the presence of vehicles or mobility analysis are very correlated among them. And so we are working together among these two areas. Okay? Okay, concluding, next steps are the conclusion of the big data platform on-premise, let's say on the government cloud in Tuscany region, the improvement of dashboard and insights for real-time data, also analyzing the economical aspects of the restart of the city, adding new data sources, hopefully also of museum entrances, and also starting new analytics on the hybrid approach at architectural level, as I said before, so some capabilities in cloud and some capabilities on-premise, following what we learned during the BDTI project. Okay? I have concluded. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Gianluca, for this insightful presentation. Now I would like to give the floor to Laia Pastor from the city of Valencia. Hi, Laia. I don't know if you can hear me.
Hello? Do you hear me?
Yes, perfectly fine, loud and clear.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am representing the Health Department of the Valencian Regional Government, and we have worked closely with the Directorate General for Informatics of the European Commission, and we are happy to present today the results of a pilot based on text mining for knowledge extraction with application on COVID-19. So if we move forward, we will see a brief introduction followed by the situation, the problem we want to solve, and the solution we are proposing. After, we will talk about the target and the approach, the ETL, the process, taxonomies, and data visualization. And we will also see the technologies and IT architecture, and we will end showing the results and its usefulness. Please move on. As introduction, I will just say that the health department provides services to 5 million people. Its budget is about 5,000 million yearly, and there are more than 55,000 employees. So it is a key unit of the Valencian regional government together with education. The Directorate General for Pharmacy and Healthcare Products, which has been directly involved in this project, is in charge of provisioning and managing pharma products for the corporation. Its budget is about 2,000 million yearly. Next. Which was the problem we were facing? Well, there is a huge amount of information in scientific papers. For example, only PubMed, which is a free access search engine developed in 1996 by the United States National Library of Medicine, contains more than 30 million scientific clinical articles and gets about 1 million new scientific clinical articles every year. So if we make a search only focused on COVID-19, we will find 200,000 clinical articles generated in this month of pandemic. The problem is how to ease the work for professionals, how to make them to be updated daily with all this huge amount of information. The solution is to provide a big data text mining system able to load and analyze this data and provide results for clinicians and policymakers. Next, please. The target is extracting the knowledge contained in these 200,000 documents and provide it to the clinicians and managers in a manageable way by means of advanced data visualization tools, the visualization tool that we will see after. This pilot aims at improving the management of COVID-19 crisis at the strategic, tactic, and operational level, and helping answering questions such as what is the impact of COVID-19 on polypharmacy patients? Because we want to know if consuming certain chronic treatments, for example, for diabetes or schizophrenia, may increase the risk of complications in case of contracting COVID-19. What is the arsenal of treatments available for COVID-19? Because there is no specific treatment for this illness. As the Valencian government, we know which treatments are being used in Valencia, but we don't know what is being used in other countries. So we could use this tool to get updated with it. Another question, what are the comorbidities of COVID-19? Because we want to know if having previous illnesses, such as hypertension or renal diseases, may increase the risk of complications when having COVID-19. And the last example, is eculizumab treatment being effective for COVID-19? In this case, we want to know if a certain drug, eculizumab, which is under investigation as a COVID-19 treatment and there is no proven evidence, has been shown to be effective in a clinical trial. Again, the goal is to help clinicians, pharmacists, and healthcare managers to analyze COVID-19 clinical articles and visualize results for clinical practice and healthcare policymaking. Next, please. We base all this BDTI project on ontologies, and these ontologies come from 3 different sources. The first source, the anatomical therapeutic chemical classification, the ATC system, and the defining daily dose. This is the standard for international drug utilization. Each active ingredient is classified and identified by a unique code, and the World Health Organization defines the DDD, the standard dose that a patient has to take per day for each drug. The second source is the International Classification of Diseases, the ICD. This is the international standard diagnostic tool for epidemiology, healthcare management, and clinical purposes. So each illness is classified and identified by a unique code. And the third source is the SNOMED CT, which is a collection of medical codes, terms, synonyms, and definitions used in clinical documentation and reporting. Next. The IT infrastructure used is the Connecting Europe Facility Big Data Test infrastructure by using an Amazon cloud. There are 200,000 articles pre-selected by extracting the title, the abstract, and text fields for each article. All these articles are included in a database by using PostgreSQL, and the term extraction is based on the health categories seen before. All this is processed through Elasticsearch Logsearch Kibana, and the data visualization is by using as well Kibana. Next, please. And here we have the results. This is an example filtered by a specific criteria where there were found 1,637 different clinical articles that matched with the criteria. On the top of the screen, we have a summary with the number of times a medical term from a specific classification, the ATC, the ICD, was found. After this, we can see these 1,637 different articles listed and ordered by relevance. The relevance depends on the number of occurrences that matched. Here, the most important thing is that we are obtaining these results in real time, and having this in a manual way would have been almost impossible. The user obtains then, fast and easily, a list of articles with the most relevant conclusions about COVID-19. So users already have this information available in PubMed, but here the thing is that they have this information summarized with charts and graphs. Next. Further, there is a possibility to assess how many times a specific occurrence, a drug or an illness, appears matching with the search criteria. For example, why is chloroquine mentioned so much? Because chloroquine showed a notable role, although there was no solid scientific evidence on its efficacy. So this is an interesting question. Another question that emerges from results is why are there many occurrences related to cancer, mental, circulatory or digestive? And going back to the eculizumab example, here we could check how many times occurrences related to eculizumab and COVID-19 appear. And we found 215 articles matching with this criteria. Next, please. BDTI has been truly useful for the Valencian regional government because it has helped us identify patterns in the medical literature faster by using data technologies. This is a support to find the most relevant information for COVID-19. And what's most important here, it has applicability to any other field of study beyond COVID-19. The knowledge extracted is useful in order to improve clinical practice, but also to act and allocate resources accurately. As a health organization, results can guide us towards new patterns, and this makes the tool truly useful for public administrations, with important implications for citizens. Next, please. And which are the next steps? Well, contacts with Santer have been made to collaborate with the project EU Convalescent Plasma Platform to take advantage of synergies of both projects. This is a project that Francesca talked about before. The idea is that at the end of the pilot, we will be able to have our own platform so that we can carry out the second part of the project that would include a specific program for the rational use of medicines based on scientific evidence. Also, a pharmacotherapeutic review program for the review of medication that has been shown to be ineffective. And the last the update of clinical practice guidelines to promote evidence-based medicine, which is very, very important here. Next, please. If we go further, the biggest challenges we will face are, first, connecting the tool to the electronic medical record in order to ease the access to professionals and promote their specific decision-making according to each patient situation. Because if we could be able to do this, we would be talking about professionals with easy access to the most updated conclusions referred in scientific papers and the possibility to give more individualized healthcare services. Then we would be talking, obviously, about an increase of the quality of our healthcare system. Another challenge is that there is no network to share this knowledge between countries, and this would be interesting to make extensible this improvement to the whole European citizenship. And the last, this is it. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming to this webinar, and feel free to contact me through this email address you have seen in the screen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Laia. Thank you very much for this thorough explanation, which was complemented by Gianluca's presentation beforehand. Thank you very much for sharing your experience, and we are delighted to see the long-term projects and the long-term applications of your tests ongoing, and which is why, without further ado, I would like to open the Context Broker section of this webinar, where it might be, and we are hopeful to be so for you and your projects, invaluable tool to achieve the success into the implementation of long-term projects that you have. So Caroline will be giving you a very brief presentation of the Context Broker building block. Caroline, can you hear me?
Yes, hello,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly fine. The floor is yours.
Okay, hello everybody. Thanks for being here. So indeed, as Erbil said, I'm Caroline Corneau, working from within the Commission within DG Digit, which is at the solution providing side of the Connecting Europe Facility program. And so, of course, we work very closely with the policy side in DG Connect, where we have some of our colleagues present here as well today, Daniele, and also I think Serge is here. So we have our bases covered. So yes, let's introduce the Context Broker in a very quick nutshell before Ken and Benedetta show you what it can really do, and I hope inspire you to use it too. My main message is to really highlight the benefits of using the Context Broker and just give a few pointers as to how to start with us at CEF Digital. And I would say the spoiler alert here is that the quickest way is to call our dear host Erbil right after this webinar. So the Context Broker, it's a set of tools, and they are used to gather, manage, and share context data in real time, okay? Very quickly, I want to highlight three things. It's a data broker, so meaning that you can assemble data from different sources, and so in effect, put them in a broader, richer context to allow you to make sense of different pieces of information, and so in the end make better decisions about your organization. And so with it, you can leverage investments, so to speak, in the sense that the Context Broker contributes to the creation of a data marketplace within the digital single market. And of course, it allows for easier development with the tools, the software and the accompanying tools that you can use for free as part of our platform. And so with this low entry cost and also quick development, for example, we have projects that were set up and managed to set up a meaningful dashboard in just 5 days. So with the next slide, I would like to briefly show how you can use the Context Broker and who can benefit from it. So first and foremost, of course, the public administrations, anyone from a public entity can contact us to see how to use the Context Broker in your particular needs or use case. And we can help you with the analysis on how to start, where to start with the data and the data that you have available. Then solution providers, of course, if they want to add the context broker to your service offering, well, we can support you in building on the tools that we offer. And then for developers themselves, of course, that's the principle of open source, that you can use our software components and documentation, our support services, everything to create applications using the core context broker. And so as the last slide, I believe already for me, yes, why starting to use the context broker? And so why call Erbil right after this webinar? So I've already gone through the main benefits of making sense of your data coming from multiple sources. And again, Ken will explain more in detail this, and Benedetta will showcase. So let me just add here that our solutions are based on standards, so it's easier by using them to scale up. And thanks to our reference implementation, these are Orion and Cygnus LD by FIWARE, and our support services, you can really kickstart your project, your idea. And so I'll end up by reaffirming really how we can help at CEF Digital. We have our software directly for you to use, a sandbox environment to start with, and supporting services to help you. And there, of course, you can benefit from the experience of a lively, vibrant user community to share experiences. And yes, with this, someone is eager to speak. So let's dive in. I hope Ken is there, and let's dive in to learn more about the context broker and how it is used. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Caroline. And here, yes, Ken, please.
Okay, I'm here. Hello, everybody. My name is Ken Zangelin. I work for the FIWARE Foundation since 2 years. Before that, I worked for Telefonica R&D, and that is pretty much where I implemented, well, me and another guy, Fermin Galan, we implemented Orion, the context broker. Since 2 years, I've been working on adding linked data capabilities to the context broker, implementing something that is called Orion LD, and that is more or less what I'm going to be speaking about now. Not Orion, but its successor, or not. I mean, both of them will live, but soon you will be able to use linked data in Orion as well as normal data, and I will explain a little bit what this is. Okay.
Tío va a quedar de seguido a mamá, la primera persona que lo va a decir.
Perdón?
Y la mamá va a...
Okay. So, I'm going to really this talk is about the standardization process that we are doing at the ISG SIM, but I'm going to first present FIWARE and NDSILD and the new context broker. Okay, next slide, please. So it's all about context information or context data. That's what we collect in the context broker, in Cygnus, in the historical data. This is what we use for big data to do whatever we need to do. It's all about this context information. So what is that? Well, it could be almost anything. It could be the temperature in one of the rooms in these blue skyscrapers, in one corner of one of the rooms, or in all rooms, or it could be the height of the building, it could be the owner of the building, it could be the location of the car that is driving on the highway out here, it could be the opening hours for the coffee shop, Nikki's Super Coffee, it could be anything. Okay, now to implement the smart solution, you would normally combine context information from different sources. Perhaps a car that is driving by this Nikki coffee shop, he gets a pop-up on his GPS screen in his cars saying that if you want the coffee, you will get 10% off between 4 and 6 this afternoon, whatever. Okay. And to do this, FIWARE offers a number of we call them generic enablers. CEF called them building blocks. It's the same. Orion or Orion LD are generic enablers in FIWARE. Orion is a building block in CEF. It's basically unexecutable. Okay, next. This is how data normally is organized. It's unconnected silos of lots of information that you can't do anything really smart with if you can't connect them. And that is exactly where FIWARE comes in. You need to connect these silos. That's it. Thank you. Thank you. To be able to do something intelligent with all that data. So that is what FIWARE offers. We have, as I said, what we call generic enablers. You could also call them building blocks or Lego pieces or whatever you want. So we offer, I don't know, we have a whole catalog of perhaps 50 different enablers. So we have the context broker, of course. We have more context brokers. We have actually 3 different context broker implementations for NGSI LD on their way. None of them is completely compliant still because NGSI LD is still evolving. It is not done. We make changes to the specification every week. Not every day, but definitely every week. We have generic enablers that take care of historical data, which is what you would use for big data analysis. We have those enablers as well. One is called Cosmos. We have IoT agents to connect sensors for measuring temperatures or humidity or air quality, whatever, and push this information into the context broker and also into the historical data enablers so that you can see the evolution of air quality, for example, over time, stuff like that. We have enablers to deal with security, for authentications, for authorizations to get to this data. We have Wirecloud to help you create dashboards and web-based presentations. We have actually not one, we have 2 different complex event processors, etc. We have a bunch of generic enablers that help anybody to implement a smart solution. Next. So with FIWARE, you can more or less easily connect all these silos or islands of data, and you can do something smart with a combination of all this information. That is basically what FIWARE does, what FIWARE offers. Okay, next. This here is very low level. Okay, this presentation so far, all of it, the whole webinar has been quite high level. Now we're going down low level, as low as you can, basically, without showing the proper implementation. This is the context data. We have entities. Entities have an ID and a type. It has a few timestamps about when it was created and last modified, and especially entities have attributes. Attributes have, of course, a name. It could be location, temperature, whatever. It has a type. It has a value, which could be a numerical value. It could be a string. It could be a complex value that contains a lot of information, etc. Attributes also have the same timestamps that the entity had to know when the attribute was created and when it was last modified. And attributes also have sub-attributes. And sub-attributes, they are just like attributes. Sub-attributes can also have sub-attributes, and like that, as long as you want. One important difference from NGSI version 2, where attribute types can be any string. In NGSI LD, we have put some restraints here. The attribute type has to be either property, relationship, or geoproperty. We are introducing language properties so that you can define names, for example, in different languages, and something called vocab properties for enumerations. This is coming. It's not in the spec yet, in the NGSI LD spec, so it's also not in Orion LD, because I try to not implement anything that is not completely defined in the NGSILD spec and public. If people don't know what it is because it's not in the public spec, then why would I implement it? Sometimes it changes, so I tend to wait. Okay, this is really important. If you're going to implement something, you need to decide what is an entity, what attributes does this entity have, etc. Do I need sub-attributes? These kind of things. It's about your data model, and it is really important. Okay, next. Okay, this is about the services that the context broker, an NGSILD compliant context broker must have. So it must be able to create, modify, and delete entities and their attributes with their sub-attributes, etc. It must be able to, for users to be able to retrieve entities or query entities, many entities with a, well, it has a big, huge amount of filters and a very powerful query language for you to be able, for example, give me all the entities that has an attribute called temperature, which is between 46 and 47. Or add, and it also has an attribute called pressure that is below 950, etc., etc. It is very powerful. A compliant context broker needs to be able to treat subscriptions. A subscription is it's like a contract where the user that creates this subscription asks the context broker to send him or her or it a notification when some condition has been fulfilled. And you have the very same filters, the very same query language in subscriptions as you have with queries. So you can tell the broker that give me a notification every time that the temperature 14, for example, in room 6 goes over 23 or under 6. If that happens, send me a notifications and I will deal with it. If you do this, instead of asking the broker continuously for data, you will just relax, and when anything interesting happens, you will get a notification, and then you will perhaps show a warning on your dashboard or whatever. Compliant NGSILD context broker also needs to deal with registrations, and registrations is to tell the context broker that, hey, I have this entity. It's not yours, it's mine. But if somebody asks you for this entity or attributes, etc., then you should know that I have it. So if that happens, forward that request and I will answer. Like this, we can extend the context broker with IoT agents or with other brokers, and they build a bigger system, some kind of scaling to be able to deal with more requests per second. And then one more, this is actually optional, the temporal evolution. You heard about historical data and big data, etc. In NGSILD, we decided to include the temporal evolution of entities, aka historical data. And apart from storing all this information, we also have queries to get all the values of the temperature in room, I don't know what, from last week to yesterday evening or whatever. So this is what an NGSILD compliant context broker must, and the last one might implement. Next. I'm probably gone over time by far. I'm sorry. Now about standardization, what I'm really supposed to talk about. ETSI, that's it's a European Standards Organization. I'm sure you have all heard about it. If you need information, you have something on this slide, and you will all have a copy of it, or just look it up. Next, I'm gonna go a little bit faster. Where we are defining the NGSILD interface or API, It's called ISG SIM. ISG, as you can see here, stands for Industry Specification Group, and CIM or SIM is Context Information Management, exactly what we are doing. And it's all about defining this protocol or API, NGSI-LD, linked data for NGSI. NGSI stands for next generation. I don't remember. It's part of the presentation. But we don't only define the API. We deal with a few things that are necessary for the API also, even though it's not a part of it, such as security, data models, interoperability. Digital twin is not really that. It's a use case that we have both for digital twins and for artificial intelligence to try to have these guys use NGSI-LD, because we need users. If we don't have any users, everything that we are doing, and it's a lot, will be for nothing. Okay, next slide. There are a total of 32 companies interested or that have shown interest in Etsy about ISG SIM. Not many actually do anything. They have shown this interest, and some of them actually are paying for it, but the ones that really do something, it's like 7-8 companies, and it is especially the first two. FF is the FIWARE Foundation, and then NEC. We are the two big drivers, perhaps, especially about the NGSI LD API. You can see Orion LD and Scorpio, Stelio, and Django within parentheses. These are implementations of NGSI LD context brokers. Okay, so these four companies, FIWARE Foundation, NEC, EGM, and Sensinov, we are especially interested in defining the protocol, the NGSI LD API, because that's what we implement ourselves in our our brokers. We also have Orange, CNIT, UbiWare, and Odins that are also actively helping, and well, that's the group that we have. Next slide, please. More about this here. Okay, so we meet every Tuesday morning. We had a meeting this morning from 9 to 11. We often go a little bit over, but it's basically one weekly meeting for the general stuff. We don't really have time during only these 1.5 to 2 hours weekly. We also add a few rapporteur calls, especially about the API, which is the main work item that we deal with. So we normally do that on Fridays from 9 to 11, but we need one more because we have added one more weekly meeting recently, and we'll do that until Christmas because we want to get a new release of the NGSI LD API version 1.4.1 before Christmas. Apart from these meetings, the general meetings and the API rapporteur calls, we do a quarterly face-to-face pre-COVID plenary meetings that usually lasted from Monday after lunch to Wednesday evening. But now, as we don't travel anymore, we do 3 consecutive days of 4 to 5 hours in the morning, around 9 to 1, 9 to 2. The next one we are having the 17th of December. We do this about 4 times every year. We recently started a joint workshop between FIWARE and ISG SIM about digital twins, because we deal with the digital twins and in ISG SIM, but so does FIWARE. So, and we have lots of people actually that are both in ISG SIM, Etsy, and in FIWARE. So we don't want to do double work, so we do it together. The output will be a part of, it will be a, so to say, standardized part, which is part of Etsy ISG SIM, but FIWARE will do part of it as well. They will help us. Well, I will help us. I'm both in FIWARE and Etsy, so it's kind of funny. We also do repertoire calls whenever necessary about data models and about security. They don't have really weekly calls because it's not necessary every week, but whenever it's time for a new release or you have something interesting to deal with, then we start up these also, and they go weekly until we think that we are done, then we stop them. Okay, that's all for this. Next slide. Okay, these are the work items. This is everything that we deal with. Normally, we spend a few minutes for each of these, most of them in the general meetings. That's basically why we don't have time for much else. We don't have time to deal with the API because we have so many other things. So work item 9 is the API specification. That's the most important part by far. Then we have data modeling. I've already discussed most of these. The last 6, as you can see, it's called testing framework, test suite, test purposes, etc. It's about implementing. We have gotten a grant from Etsy to implement a test suite to certify NGSILD brokers, so that it's under implementation right now. All the specifications about what needs to be implemented is being written. So we look at what this group has done so far, and this is actually most what we do in the general meetings right now. We are making sure that this TTF, the test group framework, are doing what we believe that they should. Okay, next I think is the last slide. Here I try to show a little bit how we proceed to actually get something inside our specifications. All of these work items that you saw on the previous slide, they have a specification tied to it. There is one specification for the NGSILD API. There is another specifications about security, another one about data models, etc. And each specification has a repertoire that is responsible for keeping it up to date, to merge any extra stuff that needs to go inside, etc. So when somebody wants to modify or add to a specification, what is typically done is that a presentation is made to show everybody what they are after, what they want. This presentation is normally showed in a repertoire call, because as I said before, in the general meeting we are busy with everything else. So if it's a security thing, then we create a new then we start a new series of security repertoire calls until this thing is dealt with and it's inside the spec. Then we can stop them, etc. So normally the new thing that is to be added to a spec is presented to all participants in the repertoire call. We all see it, we discuss it, we make changes. We might say, no, this is not necessary because it could be done like this instead. Instead of this change, let's add an annex to the specifications explaining how to deal with this without adding anything to the spec, and it's just removed. That's normally not the case. Normally it is added, but before that, it takes time to have everybody satisfied. So while the change is being presented, we discuss and we change the presentation, and then well, actually it's like we do that until everybody is satisfied. And once we are satisfied, then the driver of this change will take the last draft of the specification and add the necessary text. And after that, when that is done, he does that offline. I mean, it's only him. It's a horrible work. Somebody's got to do it, but we don't edit the text together, except for very small changes that needs to be done. But when it's something like this, it's done offline, and when it's done, it is prepared again in the repertoire call. So then we take a look at it again. We make sure that it follows all the ETSI rules about the verbs to be used, that no chapters have been moved, because that might give problems with previous references. If chapter 3.6 was something before and now it's something else, that's not allowed according to ETSI, which makes a lot of sense. There are a few rules that you have to be careful with when you change the specifications. But once that is done and everybody is satisfied with it, it's still not enough, because we also have to present it to the general meeting so that everybody can have a chance to say his or her opinion, or say, hey, this is not needed, this is stupid, whatever. So it has to be presented also in the general meeting, and once it is okay there, then it will actually finally be merged into the latest draft of that specification, be it API or security, whatever. And it is the duty of the rapporteur of the work item to make sure that the latest draft of that specifications is correctly updated. We call it baseline, the baseline of the specification, which is always the latest draft. So we after this has been merged, we have a new baseline, and that's what will be used for the next change, next modification of the spec. And that's how the IHG SIM or any ETSI group work, basically. About releases, the most important one is the API specification, the SIM 009. The latest release we have, we got ready this September, a few months ago. It's version 131, and we are working now on a very quick release 141 that actually it says here January, but this morning we decided to try to have it in December. It will be three or four major changes from 131, but it's important stuff, and we want it out there as soon as possible. So we will release 141 before. Well, we will have it ready before Christmas. Then it has to be okayed by ETSI, and that usually takes a few weeks minimum. So it will probably, as it says here, it will probably not be completely public before January 2021. And yeah, that's pretty much all of it. I think my next slide says thank you and goodbye.
Thank you very much, Ken, for this presentation. I just wanted to now leave the floor to Benedetta from Phoops, from Italy. In the meanwhile, my colleague Regina just shared the survey, satisfaction survey in the chat. So if our participants at their best convenience could fill that out, it will be a great feedback opportunity for us. So thank you very much. So Benedetta, if you can take the floor.
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me well?
Yes, perfectly fine.
Okay, perfect. So first of all, thank you for having me here, presenting our actually use case, our solution. And today I'm going to talk to you about our solutions developed for the City of Florence, a mobility as a service solution. So next slide, please. Next, please. Thanks. First of all, who we are. Our name is Phoops, and we are small medium enterprises, an IT company located in Florence, which core product is a microservice, flexible, scalable, and interoperable platform that has been originally used only for the mobility as a service within the mobility as a service domain, and nowadays is used actually also in other two domains, in the smart city context and within the smart industry and smart energy context. Next, please. Just to provide you with an overview about our history. So the core question that we faced was, how can we build effective service chain and deliver them to the end user at the right time? To, let's say, answer to this question, we started our development process back in 2015, where thanks to first acceleration program, let's say, promoted by the FIWARE Foundation, we were able to develop the first version of our platform, what was called Move. Then we had the possibility to participate to a second round of an incubation program, where we managed to develop what is nowadays called Buigues, a white label, let's say, platform that is today, as you see in the scheme, used, as I told you, in three main domains, with Move Up within the mobility as a service domain, into eCity within the smart city domain, and Brexit for the smart industry and smart energy domain. Next, please. What is core to our platform is, of course, the CEF Context Broker. Why is it actually so much core for us? Because it allows us, I'm not going to go into the details since Ken actually provided us with all the details about its functioning and so on and so forth, but I want to stress the fact that for us it is fundamental to achieve a high level of standardization of contextual information. It, as Ken well explained, supports both public subscription mode. It provides our application and our platform with the possibility to send notification directly to the both to the end user and to the various services. Furthermore, it has a powerful query mode that supports geolocation, which is, by the way, something fundamental for a mobility as a service application. And it has a common language integration, which allows us to grow the system quickly and efficiently. Next, please. Next slide. Okay. So this is CEF Mobility Florence, our recent Sussex case. As Gianluca in the section before actually told you, we went recently in production with CEF. CEF is a mobility as a service platform that has two main endpoints, a mobile application and a web application, with the core objective to have a to develop a 360 degrees mobility as a service environment. It has, of course, different advantages, but what I want to stress you is the fact that it allows the public administration to monitor urban mobility in real time and to check, of course, the status of urban mobility, spotting in real time crisis areas. So you have to imagine this platform within a control room context. And another point that I want to stress you is our feedback model that allows the public administration to create a direct communication channel which goes directly from the end user to the public administration and vice versa. Furthermore, thanks to CEF, the municipality becomes the sole owner of urban mobility data in the complete respect of GDPR compliance. Next, please. Just to provide you with a brief overview of how CEF works, this is a schematic representation of our platform. I want to stress to your attention the two crucial components provided by the FIWARE Foundation, which you find in the little pinky box in the core, in the heart of the platform, which are the CEF Contact Broker and the Signal State Change Subscriber, which is another generic enabler provided by the FIWARE Foundation. As you might see, the platform can sustain different data sources, from user-generated content up until IoT, Internet of Things sensors, and so on and so forth. And it has, again, two main endpoints, one dedicated to the generic user, which are generally, the citizen, and the other one dedicated to the operator, so the public administration specific operator. The platform is based on containerized services, which are orchestrated via standard technologies such as Docker or Kubernetes. And of course, another component which is crucial for the platform is the event logger that deals with user interaction data. Next, please. I'm going to go I'm going to go to tell you some of the core functions of our Mobility as a Service platform, and I want to start from the city map, which is, of course, the core of a mobility platform. As you see in the figure, you have both a web version, which is the one that is available to the public administration, and the mobile version. Within these maps, the user can filter in and out all the point of interest, which actually summarizes all the mobility informations together with some specific information that we collect directly from the municipality of Florence, such as municipal ordinances or the presence of car crashes. And what is interesting is that the user can click on each point of interest and see if the status of a specific, car crash actually changes over time. So if it is still present, how severe it is, and so on and so forth. Of course, there is a model of travel planner built within the city map that allows the end user to select the favorite means of transportation and see if there is any kind of obstruction, let's say, on the road. If there is a car crash, if there is a restricted traffic areas, and so on and so forth. On the other hand, the public administration, of course, can do the same. The operator can check for the status of a specific point of interest in real time. So it sees the changing, both thanks to graphical representation and thanks to status change of each point of interest. Next, please. A second function that I want to show you is the mobility profile. Thanks to all the information that we collect, and also thanks to the information that we collect and are produced directly from the users, the end user has the possibility to have the whole mobility within his hand. What it means? It means that the user can receive specific push notification according to his or her mobility habits. I want to receive notifications concerning the status of urban mobility in the specific timing when I go to work, or in the specific timing when I get back home. Furthermore, within this profile section of the application, I can store all my mobility information. For example, the restricted traffic area permits or all the subscriptions, such as parking subscription or train subscription, and so on and so forth. Next, please. Another function that I want to show you, that I want to stress to you, is this direct communication channel. As I told you before, we built a direct communication channel between the end user, so the citizen, and the public administration, the operator. As you see in the picture, you have fundamentally, the end user has fundamentally the possibility to share feedbacks with the public administration concerning urban mobility services status. For example, if the bus is late, you can tell it directly to the public administration. While on the other hand, the public administration, the operator, can build news and communicate directly with the end user. Such news are displayed in the home page of the mobile application, and the user can also receive push notification, which varies according to, which can be targeted according to specific users, or can be broadcasted to all the users, depending on the impact that such news has on urban mobility. Next slide, please. Again, this is another section of the web application. As I told you at the very beginning, the web application is completely personalizable and tailorable, which means that we have developed a specific application that, let's say, mirror the needs of Florence public administration. Here you have an example of graphical representation. I think these are users' favorite means of transportation or places. But again, here you can find really different graphical representation that depends on the needs of the public administration. And all these data are, of course, updated in real time. Next, please. We have developed CEF for the City of Florence, but of course our activity is not restricted only to the City of Florence. As I told you at the very beginning, we have three main domains of interest, and currently we have developed a smart parking platform, which is in production. We are working on a smart city platform, and we are working in both European and private projects within the sector of smart energy and smart industry. And I think that was all for me. Next, please. Yes, if you have any kind of question, I'm waiting for them. Either you write me down or you ask me questions later on within the seminar. And thank you again for the opportunity to take part in this webinar.
Thank you very much for your participation, Benedetta. It was indeed very interesting. Thanks also to all our presenters that took part into this webinar today. And I'm very happy to launch the Q&A session of this webinar. Thank you for staying with us a little bit more. So I will just put back the Menti details if it wasn't already connected. Please use the QR code or go to menti.com and use the code that's currently on screen. And in a short while, my colleague Martino will be taking over the screen and we will guide you through a couple of questions regarding
Yes. Hello, everyone. Can you see the screen?
You're seeing the screen right now. We did not register anything else than what was registered in the chat. I saw interesting links that went through. I will make sure that they are added to the presentation. That will be shared along with the recording of this webinar onto the registration page. So, Martino, if you could go to the next question, and I will ask also Francesca to take over to guide our audience to the questions.
Yes, sure. So first of all, thank you to all the people that already gave us the answers of Menti. I think there aren't, or they. Yes, I think we have some questions. Some answers, yes. So we have prepared some questions that can be really useful to us to understand your preferences in different terms. So thanks to your feedback, we can improve our infrastructure and services accordingly. This first question aims to understand in which kind of analysis you are more interested in. I see that people is still voting. So currently, the most voted is the social media analysis, and then the descriptive analysis and the COVID-19 one. Let's wait just some second to see if it will change, but I think here we are. So yes, from the last webinar, we saw that the trend is similar to this one. Yes, descriptive analysis and time series predictive are usually the most voted. And it is interesting that today we have as first one this social media analysis. I think we can move to the next question. Thank you. So this question is similar to the last one, but in this case we ask your preference on another set of types of analysis. So let's see the results of this question. We have a lot of chances, and just a little clarification about Menti. In Menti, you have the opportunity to insert multiple answers, so you can create a kind of sequence of your preferred answers and not mark just only one. So I see that the first one, so the most voted, is the web analysis. Then we have IoT and smart city, and then route. Yes, this is also similar to the results we obtain in the last webinar. It followed the same trend. Yes. I think now we can move to the third question. Okay, so this question is really useful for us to understand which will be the main drivers for you to choose to apply for BDTI. So as for the other questions, we have multiple answers. For example, my organization already collects big data, but you don't have a platform to analyze them, or BDTI is for free, so public administration do not have to pay anything for it, and so on. We have already some answers. Yes, as we can see, the most voted one is the one I mentioned you before. So my organization already collects big data, but we do not have a platform to analyze them. And the second one is I'm tackling a new use case, and I would like to understand if BDTI can help. And the third one is the one regarding the costs of BDTI, so the fact that BDTI is for free for public administrations. Yes, now this is the second most voted. Okay, thank you. Let's pass to the third question. Okay, in this last question, we would like to understand from you why instead you would not apply for BDTI. So we have some answer related to security, or the fact that you are a private entity, and so on. So let's wait a moment for your answers. Okay, just some notes about these answers. First of all, the one regarding the security. I just want to clarify that BDTI is a platform hosted by AWS, but AWS do not have access to BDTI platform. So data on BDTI is managed by the operational team of BDTI and the BDTI users themselves. So all pilots are separated in the platform, so users can access only their own platform. And in addition, the European Commission has a contract with AWS to guarantee specific security measures. So you can rest assured that your data will be safe and secure. And I see that the most voted answer regarding the fact that you work for a private entity. In this case, I have a suggestion for you. So, for example, if you are an academy or university or another type of entity, you can access and register to our BDTI community portal. So you can get in contact with the other public administrations that can be interested in a collaboration with you. Then I see I'm not sure whether I will incur in unforeseen costs, but let me explain again that if you are a public administration, BDTI is free for you, so you don't have to pay additional costs. So this could not be a problem. And then the third one is I feel I need additional services information in order to apply for BDTI. So I think I can leave to you in the chat our website where you can find additional information on our BDTI platform, and then please visit our community portal, because there you can find a lot of information about pilots, about services. You can also find there the catalogs with all the data sources and tools that BDTI provides to you. So please visit it and use it to share your knowledge and to communicate with other stakeholders. I think this was our last question. So I leave the floor to Benedetta. Because I think the last question, yes, is about a use case. So thank you, and Benedetta, the floor is yours.
Yes, are you using, right, the Menti engine behind, right? I'm just introducing the question. That was my question, actually. Okay, these are two questions concerning the use case that I have presented you. And first one is, which aspects or function of a mobility as a service platform are central according to your experience, either as an end user, so as a citizen, or as a mobility manager? Okay. Okay, that's extremely interesting for us, because generally is what people actually answer is the travel planner, but it's actually the fourth answer. So we have presence of various categories of point of interest. I don't know how many people actually replied, but
We have a total of 6
okay.
right now.
Yeah, it's written over there. And promote environmental sustainability. Then at the third place is the travel planner, which was something that I was expecting. The fourth one is having quick and reliable information about the status of urban mobility. Then the fifth is precise information about the status of urban mobility and receive information about mobility-related services, and having a direct communication channel with the mobility manager. So thank you for these answers, which is kind of extremely important for us to understand what, you know, the average user is actually looking for. I don't know if we want to move to the next question or...
Yes, we definitely can. We have just
Okay.
about enough time to go through that and wrap up this session. I think, given the interesting results, maybe it will be interesting to get to that also.
Okay. And here again, the question is similar, but actually asks for which are the aspects or function of a smart city platform which are central according to your experience, if you have, of course, as an end user, or your experience as a mobility manager. Again, also here you can rank all the available answers. Okay, so the first place is receive real-time information about city services, which is something that I was expecting actually. Promoting, it's a super green group, by the way, which is second place, promoting environmental sustainability. Well, no. Monitor the status of offered smart city services, then promoting environmental sustainability via the engagement of end users. At the fourth place, we see engage the end user via a direct communication channel. The fifth, which is kind of a little bit puzzling, maybe because not so many, let's say, manager actually replied. It's monitor the degree of users' engagement. Then at the sixth place, we have monitor the air, soil, and water status. And the last one, well, last and seventh and eighth, monitor the environmental status of air, soil, and water. Okay, that's again interesting from our perspective. I was wondering if I can have also these results, Bill or Regina.
Everything that's being recorded right now, so
Okay.
we will make sure that it's
Okay.
transmitted appropriately. I will quickly take over the screen since we're coming close to the end of this session. I would like to thank all of our speakers today that allowed us to have this interesting webinar session dedicated to Context Broker and BDTI. Also to our lovely audience with their participation and also the different questions that were answered in the end. We are very hopeful that it kind of sparked some additional interest. All the different links that you can see on screen will be shared in the final presentation that will be shared in the event page. So we wish you all very well. We will be back with more interesting content through webinars in the near future. And thank you all and wishing you a very pleasant day and stay safe. Have a lovely one.